DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we're going to talk about the mass gun violence and school shootings that have been happening in America. I'm going to give you my opinion on all of this. So before we do that, I remind you of two things. First of all, my text message number down below in the description. Secondly, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to have me as your direct coach, all you got to do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can learn more about our coaching options. We have more than one option. You can see our receipts, also known as social proof. We call them receipts. That is proof that what I'm doing is legit, proof that the people we have worked with will tell you directly out of their own mouths that what I'm doing is legit, that is going to help you, that's going to help take your game to the next level. We work with so many people. You will find a bunch of people who come from similar situations as yours and are going to similar places as you when you go over there. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link and number both down below in the description to this episode. So mass shootings and or school shootings happening in America. We know that this has been a big thing in the news probably over the last, let's just say the last quarter of a century. Anytime there is a shooting or more than one person gets shot, that's what a mass shooting is. Two or more people is technically by definition a mass shooting. And people make big deals about this, about, well, we need more gun laws, or we need to take guns away, or compare America to XYZ country where people have guns, but they have sensible gun laws. Or, well, it must be somebody from the MAGA crowd who is doing it. It must be somebody with gender dysphoria is doing it. It must be somebody who ABC, their parents didn't raise them right, who or registered Republican, whatever it is that they're trying to blame these things on. The situation is, that's not really what needs to be addressed. All of those things sound good and they play well politically, but is any of those really a solution to a bigger problem? The answer is no, they're not. And today we're going to talk about the bigger issues. Let's get into it. I don't need to get too much more background on this subject. Point number one. Topic again is we're talking about mass and school shootings in America. Number one, we're not taking the guns away. And when I say we, I mean us as citizens. The guns ain't going anywhere. We are not taking guns away. All right. The Second Amendment is part of the U.S. Constitution, and it must and will be defended and protected, period. We will not go and take away anything just because someone has used that thing in the wrong way or abused it in a way that has hurt other people. You wouldn't do this with any other object being used in life. Right? If someone misuses a knife, we're not going to ban knives. If someone drives drunk in a car and causes a fatal accident, we're not going to ban cars, and we don't even ban alcohol. If you want to ban something, start with something like that. All right, so we're not doing that just because someone abuses a tool. Human beings are human. And the trade-off of humans being human is that sometimes a human will do some crazy shit. All right, that's pretty much what's going to happen. There was a guy who I grew up with who was only about maybe a year or two younger than me. And a friend of mine from back home in Philadelphia texted me and told me about this. This happened probably about, what year was this? This had to be about maybe 2020 or maybe 2019 or 2020. And he texted me and said, hey, do you remember XYZ person? And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, that guy, what happened is the guy got murdered by his girlfriend. And this is a guy who I used to play basketball with in the neighborhood growing up. And what had happened is he was in a car with this girl, and allegedly, according to the girl, he was telling the girl that he didn't want to be with her anymore. She pulls a gun out of her purse and shoots him in the head while he's driving the car. She hops out of the car, runs into the woods, goes to her mom's house, eventually turns herself into the police. But she had murdered this guy. Now, does that mean we should take the guns away? No. Does that mean we should take whatever else away just because someone has misused it? No. The trade-off of humans being humans, and sometimes humans are going to do crazy shit. Now, this is just what it is. And this is going to lead to my next point, which we'll get to in a second. And when it comes to schools and when it comes to kids, because some people say, well, what about the kids? The kids are the most vulnerable. Yes, we can put police in schools, but it's a different thing if the student themselves is doing the shooting. A lot of times there's a mass shooting in a school It's not some outsider who came from outside the school. It's a student in the school who comes in and does it. It's a whole different thing when the student already has the gun. They're inside. The cops can only block outsiders. Generally, they're not blocking the insiders. They're blocking the outsiders who are already, who are outside the perimeter of the building, even if you put cops at every school. And people say, well, we shouldn't have cops at school because the kids shouldn't have to worry about getting shot when they go to school. I don't think most kids are worrying about getting shot when they go to school. You don't have to be worrying about getting shot to get shot, by the way. And rather, at the same time, if putting police in schools will deter or stop a potential shooter from using that gun, then we need to put police in the schools. Because again, we're not taking the guns away. We're not taking the humans away. So the only thing left is let's put police in schools and make the schools more safe. And if the kids have to grow up and 30 years later can write a book and say, oh, I went to school and there was a cop there, so I was worried about getting shot. All right, write the fucking book. Who cares? 30 years from now, you know how many books are going to be coming out because of AI technology makes it so easy to write books, and nobody going to give a shit about that. You're going to have to come with a better angle than that. So this first point is really about the Second Amendment and people saying that we need to put in quote unquote more sensible gun laws just because someone has misused the gun. No, we got plenty of gun laws already. We have more laws about guns on the books than most people even know about, nor do we have time to read and understand those laws. Congress is passing laws every single day. Most of us have no idea or they're passing bills that can become laws if signed by the president every single day. Most of us have no idea how many bills are getting passed through Congress every single day, or why, or what exactly they entail, because there's a whole lot of things inside of a bill besides what they put on the headline and what ends up on the news or on social media. Most of us don't even know most of the laws we already got. And you all are talking about let's put in more sensible gun laws. Bullshit. Understand the laws we have first, then tell me what we need to add on to it and why. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is we're talking about mass shootings and school shootings in America. Number 2, Thomas Sowell, one of my favorite authors. He talks about the constrained vision versus the unconstrained vision. And the unconstrained vision is this idea that we can somehow create a utopian society. This can somehow be manufactured. All we have to do is put enough rules and laws in place to where everything is perfect. No one's ever going to do anything wrong in this society. Everything's going to work properly because every law and rule is set up so that people have no choice but to do things in a proper way. This is what politicians angle towards every time they say we need to make new laws or pass new bills based on some negative thing that just happened. And you notice that politicians do this all the time. They do this as this is leverage. This is what they do. Just so you all understand the game, how it works. Some negative thing happens where someone just does something negative. Let's say some crime gets committed and it becomes a big news story. When it becomes a big news story, this is a great opportunity for the politicians who can leverage that, whatever that thing is. So let's just say you got some Democrat politician, because usually it's those people on that side, who there's a mass shooting and it becomes a big story. So this is their opportunity to, first of all, get the audience, thus us, the voters, behind them by saying, well, this is a senseless shooting and it shouldn't be happening. If we had better gun laws in place, then we probably wouldn't have this happen. And everybody's all excited to support the concept because everybody is emotionally charged up because of what they heard happen. These kids got killed or these people got shot at the mall or whatever the situation is. In that moment, there is more momentum to possibly draft a bill that could possibly become a law in Congress and get the support of enough Congress people to get the bill through Congress to where it ends up on the president's desk, and if the president signs it, it then becomes a law. And when the people in Congress are deciding whether or not they should support a bill, even the president is deciding whether or not he should sign a bill into law. They are paying attention to what the citizens are saying, because if you have the unfavorable attention of the citizens, then there's a good chance you may be voted out your next round, or you'll just look bad politically, or you won't have the momentum again to get anything else done in the future. So politicians are paying attention to what people like you and I are saying about certain things. So when everybody's charged up about some school shooting or a bunch of kids got killed, there is more momentum to draft a bill that could, ban guns or create quote unquote more sensible gun laws in that moment than there would be if you just came up with the bill randomly on some day when there's no big news story about something happening. Now, where's the hustle in this? Well, the hustle is, first of all, just using people's emotions to pass through some legislature. The other hustle is that inside of these bills that Congress passes, there's often a whole lot of pork in those bills. Those of you who don't know what pork means in bills, I'm not talking about bacon and sausage. Pork is all the extra stuff that goes into a bill that is hidden in the fine print or hidden down on page 97 that nobody has ever read, but the people who drafted that bill know exactly what's in there. Those are the other things that get handed out and other things that get changed in if that bill were to pass that no citizen even knows about, because none of us is going on US Congress.gov and reading every single bill that gets put out, because there are too many of them. There are too many pages. It is written in legalese, meaning it's written by lawyers and is written on purpose to be so hard to understand that you can't really wrap your mind around what exactly it's saying and where exactly things are going. They do that on purpose to keep you in the dark and not understanding what the hell is going on. And there's a series I'm going to be doing about a certain individual who's in the news these days where I'm going to explain that in even more detail. But the whole point here is they are leveraging people's emotions to try to create bills and laws and rules that allegedly will make things so perfect that we have this utopian society. The problem is, as I was explaining, Thomas Sowell said, he calls this the unconstrained vision. The unconstrained vision says that you don't have to constrain humans at all, and that we just got to create a perfect set of rules and laws, which are constraints, literally, that will make everything perfect. The problem that Thomas Sowell goes on to explain, I'm paraphrasing his whole idea here in my own words, is that what we actually need is the constrained vision. And the constrained vision is what the founding fathers had in mind when they drafted the documents that became the foundation of the United States of America, like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and how the government was originally created with three branches and the systems of checks and balances. The reason that we need the constrained vision is because we have unperfect beings running the show called human beings. Unperfect human beings, imperfect human beings running the show means you are guaranteed that things are never going to be perfect. So you can't have an unconstrained vision with imperfect inputs, and humans were the imperfect inputs. The constrained vision, again, is all about understanding that there is no way to make things perfect because we are not perfect. They understood that human beings are flawed, human beings make mistakes, and that we need a system of checks and balances in place to counterbalance our own human imperfections. That's the reason why we have three branches of government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. So none of them has enough power to overrun the other two. That's the whole point, because if you give absolute power to anyone or anything, they eventually become corrupted. And this applies in these days as much as it applied back then. The constrained vision factors in that we have mere mortals executing our process. So we must constrain them, because no mere mortal can ever do things perfectly. So there's no way to create a utopian society with human beings, because we ain't perfect. Can't have a perfect society with imperfect inputs. There is no perfect outcome. We can only accept trade-offs. You just have to decide which trade-offs you would like to accept. Point number 3. Today's topic, we're talking about mass shootings and school shootings in America. Number 3, the laws and the rules. These things do not stop people who have decided they don't want to follow them. See, this whole idea that every time there's a shooting, someone comes out and says, well, we just need better and stronger gun laws, or more sensible or reasonable gun laws. And we need laws that say, well, there's no reason why any person would ever need an AR-15 or whatever rifle somebody may have used in a mass shooting. First of all, if someone's going to do a mass shooting, usually mass shootings are predetermined. Someone knows that they're going to do that before they do it. This person knows that shooting people is a criminal offense. They know that taking another person's life might end up with them losing their own lives or spending the rest of their lives incarcerated. Anyone who does a shooting understands this before they decide to do the shooting. Is this true? Yes. So when politicians talk about let's make stricter laws and stricter rules around guns, they're making laws and rules for people who are already following the fucking rules. The people who are not following the rules don't care about the rules. So no matter how many you make, it's not going to stop a person who wants to break the law from breaking the law. That's the problem with what politicians are doing. And again, this is a hustle, a sweet hustle that they're able to run right in front of people's faces, because when people are emotional, they don't think logically. See, what I just explained to you requires logical thinking, but if you're emotional, you're not ready to hear any logic. And this is why politicians wait until these moments when everybody is emotionally engaged. And that's when they slip into stuff that you don't notice because you're blinded by your emotions. That's how we got the TSA. All right, everyone was blinded by their emotions of what happened on 9/11. Now we need quote unquote safety at airports. And now here we go, having to go through TSA and take your shoes off and deal with these rude TSA agents every time you get on a plane. Why? Because everybody was emotionally worried about their safety. And now here we are stuck with it. See, nobody's still feeling afraid for 9/11. It's been damn near 25 years, but we still got to deal with the ramifications of our fears, because under the guise of our fears, All these extra rules were put in place. Your plane tickets cost what they cost because there are fees that the government makes every airline charge based on safety and security ever since 9/11. Is that a real thing? Yes, it is. Read the receipt next time you buy a plane ticket. It might be hidden somewhere in the language. Again, this is why those bills and laws that the government creates, they're written in legalese so that you don't even notice the bullshit unless you know what to look for. One of the biggest problems with politicians politicizing crime and any type of bad social outcome, quote unquote, is that no amount of law or rule can stop a criminal from doing criminal things. Again, because criminals don't care about the laws. They don't, no criminal says, I wonder before I go shoot up this school if I'm breaking the law when I do it. Or they are not considering that. They already thought about what they need to think about before they got to the point of taking action. Again, what literally makes somebody a criminal is that they don't follow or appear to care about the law, at least not in the moment in which they're committing a crime. So this whole concept of taking guns away will not stop someone who wants to unlawfully use an unlawfully acquired firearm. That's impossible. Nor will it protect the people who want to be protected by firearms, especially the way that we have demonized police for using force in any way. So even if we were to put police in the schools, the act of policing, the job of policing has been so demonized in the United States of America that a lot of people who would be good police or were good police are walking away from or leaving or never even considering the police force because they don't want to deal with the negative feedback that can come from them actually doing their damn jobs, and someone ends up getting hurt, and then they want to claim, oh, it's because I'm this race, because I'm transgender, because I'm white, because I'm female, because I'm whatever. A lot of people who would have been good cops have decided not to be cops because of that. So what solution do we have here? I already told you the solution that we have, which is accepting that human imperfections are part of the game of us being human. That's it. Not going to bring back the dead body that got shot at that last mass shooting, but doesn't mean it's not true. It's still true. So we can't protect people from firearms if nobody wants to be a cop, and we're demonizing cops for being cops. And when Donald Trump said, I'm going to give immunity to police, full immunity to police, first of all, people need to understand the president does not have the legislative power to give full immunity to police. And secondly, the police are not under the jurisdiction of the president. Police are under the jurisdiction of the state. So the thing that Donald Trump said was more metaphorical than it was literal. What he meant metaphorically was he was painting the picture in the minds of the audience that I am going to make sure police feel like they have the right to do their damn jobs without worrying about if they're going to get fired or arrested for having done their jobs. That was what he was communicating. He didn't say that in so many words because that would be too logical. If he just says, I'm going to give cops full immunity, people get excited and they clap because they understand it. And now if I go into the logic and explain that, I would probably lose about 60% of the audience just in the process of me explaining what I just said, because most people don't want to think. Another reason why I wouldn't be a politician. I tend to go into the details too much. I'm being tongue-in-cheek there. But another reason I want to be a politician is you have to lie in order to win. I can't lie that often for that long. Even what Trump said wasn't a lie, but it ain't the truth. He doesn't even have the power to do the thing that he said. But again, that works to galvanize an audience. He doesn't naturally. That's one of the reasons why he won. So anyway, the flaw in this whole argument is that you can't have it every way all the time. And this is why no one should cheer for a politician claiming that they want to make more laws and more rules, because any law or rule made by the government is going against your best interest. They're just going to keep creating more and more and more laws and rules until you can't do anything except what the government tells you to do. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time the government abolished a law or abolished a rule? When's the last time they made the tax code smaller instead of bigger? All right, you can't answer that because it never happens. The end game of government creating more and more laws and rules is eventually you will not be able to do anything other than under the dictatorship what the government tells you to do, which basically means you're going to be living in China and rather than living in the United States. All right, so many of you need to be very careful what you're asking for and what you're cheering for when you hear these political hustlers talking. Point number 4. Today's topic, once again, is we're talking about the mass and school shootings in the United States. Number 4. Politicians on both sides use dead bodies to promote their causes. This I can't go against. This is true. Both sides of the political aisle do this. Now, whether they are promoting their cause against guns, whether they're promoting a cause against the background of the person who did it. Oh, it was a black guy who did it. Oh, it was a Republican who did it. Oh, it was a transgender person. Oh, it was an immigrant from another country. Regardless of Again, it's the guns, the background of the person who did it, the ideology that person was allegedly connected to. And because they do it, everyday citizens pick up on this and they start doing the same thing. So the stuff that gets shown on TV is still influencing people. The stuff that gets heard on the internet or watched on YouTube is still influencing people. People pick up on this stuff and they start repeating the same things they heard their favorite politicians say. So whether they are bashing a politician is bashing a white supremacist, or people who have allegedly changed genders, or people who voted for a certain politician, or people of a certain color or racial background, all of this is theater. None of it is useful. Right? These people are all playing the game, and the game they're playing is on the minds of the voting population. That's what they're doing. In case you didn't understand the game, I just explained it to you. Point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is the mass shootings and mass killings happening in the United States of America. The question is there a fix for this? Is there a fix? So you're listening to this and saying, Dre, are you telling us all the reasons why the arguments against it are nonsense and why this doesn't work and that doesn't work and the constrained vision, unconstrained vision? What is your fix? What is your solution to the problem? The answer is there is no fix or solution to this problem. Sometimes people will go crazy and do bad things. This is the trade-off of us being human beings. This is sometimes people are going to do crazy shit. I don't like the concept of people talking as if there is some blanket solution to this, such as, well, we just need more social programs, or we got to take away everybody's guns, or we got to demonize a particular group, whether that be the group of the shooter or of a group that's okay with guns, like the NRA. All of this is nonsense. All of it, nonsense. Only way to fix the imperfect actions of imperfect human beings is to not have human beings on the planet in the first place. That would mean all of us need to get wiped away. And then we would have a world that is kind of like The Sims. Remember that Sims video game where we're all artificial intelligence driven creatures? Or we would be like that if you want to have a perfect society. Right? And these artificial human beings that you see in The Sims, they don't have human will, they don't have human choice, and they don't have human thought patterns. So would you like to do that? All right, some of you don't think too often, and therefore you have no choice because you have no power of will. But you also get what I'm saying here. Do you want to be replaced by an automaton video game NPC character? Because if not, then you need to be pushing back against the nonsense the same way that I have been pushing back against the nonsense, because this is nonsense. All that said, let's recap today's class, which is my opinion on the mass shootings and the school shootings. Number 1, we are not taking the guns away. The Second Amendment is here, and it ain't changing. Number 2, Thomas Sowell talks about the constrained vision versus the unconstrained vision. The unconstrained vision proposes that we could somehow create a utopian society with enough rules and laws. The constrained vision says, no, let's not do that. Let's put the checks and balances right here in the system. So no matter what people decide to do, even if they violate, they are still going to be checked by the other branches here and other people here. No one can ever get absolute power on their own in the design that we've created. Number 3, laws and rules do not stop people who want to break the law. So when politicians come out and say, well, let's create new laws and rules so that this bad thing that just happened never happens again, the problem is that bad thing will happen again because the person who's doing the bad thing doesn't care about the laws and the rules. They don't go consult the rule book or the law book before they go commit their crime. That's the whole point. Number 4, politicians on both sides use dead bodies to promote their causes. That's why you should never get too emotionally engaged with or excited about any politician, because all of them have to be very good liars in order to get to the positions that they're in. And number 5, is there a fix for this? The answer is no. Some people will do bad things. The trade-off of humans being humans is sometimes people do crazy shit that they should not do. The only way to fix imperfect actions is of imperfect beings is to wipe all human beings off the planet and replace us with robots and AI, and those things can be programmed to be perfect. Human beings, on the other hand, cannot. And when you don't have human will, human choice, or human thought patterns, then you end up being the victim of somebody else's story. All right, somebody else's decisions and the way somebody else wants to run things. All that, ladies and gentlemen, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach. Get access to our live group calls, get access to our live training calls, get access to me live on those calls on a consistent basis. And having me as your coach means you're going to get to the top 2% of what you do within the next year, if not sooner. That's all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all